Hey guys, tonight we're traveling to a time when the world was young and the sky belonged to gods made of stone. The year is around 2500 BCE. You open your eyes on the banks of the Nile, your skin already sticky with heat. Before we step into the sun, remember to like this video, subscribe if you enjoy these journeys through history, and tell me, where in the world are you watching from? Because here in ancient Egypt, time is measured not by hours, but by how long you can stand the sun. You wake to shouting and smoke. Hundreds of men are already moving. Farmers borrowed from villages, prisoners of war, anyone the pharaoh can command. Your bed was a papyrus mat on sand. Your pillow, your arm. You pull on a linen kilt and join the river of bodies, marching toward the ramp. Ahead, the half-built pyramid catches the first light, its limestone glowing like a mountain of fire. It is beautiful, and it is your prison. Breakfast is a loaf of barley bread and a handful of onions. You chew while walking. An overseer rides a donkey beside the line, stick resting on his shoulder. When he shouts, no one looks up. At the work site, you grab a rope thick as your wrist. A team of men leans forward with you, bare feet digging into wet sand. Someone starts a chant, short, steady beats that match the pull of your arms. The song is ancient, a metronome for pain. The block in front of you weighs more than 10 men. When it moves, the sound is a groan from the earth itself. Mud splashes, ropes creak, backs bend. The sun rises higher, a burning coin hung too close. Sweat runs into your eyes, you taste salt and dust. An overseer walks past, lashes the ground beside your feet. The sound snaps through you like lightning. You pull harder. The stone slides another arm's length. A cheer rises, thin and hoarse. Then the chant resumes. Hour after hour the sun climbs. Your shadow shrinks until it disappears. The ramp up the pyramid is slick with mud and grease. Men pour water to cool the sand, but it steams away instantly. The smell of hot stone fills your nose. You keep pulling, muscles twitching, hands raw. Every few minutes someone drops from exhaustion and is carried aside. The song never stops. If it stops, the work stops, and nothing is allowed to stop. When the horn finally blows, you collapse in the shadow of a block. Your throat is a furnace. A bucket of Nile water passes hand to hand. You take one mouthful, warm and muddy, and hand it on. An older worker beside you grins with broken teeth. First week, he asks. You nod. He shrugs. Then you still think you can leave. He leans back, eyes closed against the sun. Soon you'll just pray to last until flood season. Lunch is more bread, a bit of fish. You sit on the ramp, watching the pyramid rise layer by layer. Each block is marked in red pigment, the overseer's approval seal. You count them, and realize there are millions still to place. The thought makes you dizzy. Somewhere in the distance the priests chant for Khufu's soul, their voices rolling like thunder through the heat. They say the pharaoh is a god, and you believe it. Only a god could command this much pain and call it order. Afternoon blazes. The ground radiates heat up through your feet. You pull again, the rope cutting deep grooves into your palms. Someone slips, the sledge jerks, and men scatter to avoid the stone's slide. Dust erupts. When it clears, 2 workers lie still. No one cries out. The overseer orders the body covered with a mat. The song resumes. You realize death here is not event but routine, like hauling water or mending rope. By late day, the sky turns copper. Your limbs shake each time you bend. The final load of stone grinds into place, with a deep thud. The foreman marks it, and nods. That tiny gesture, the permission to stop, feels like a miracle. You drop the rope and stagger back, breathing raggedly, watching the shadow of the pyramid stretch across the sand like a sundial carved by pain. At dusk you walk to the river. The Nile glows orange beneath the setting sun. Men wash dust from their faces. Others simply stare at the water, too tired to speak. You scoop a handful to your lips. It tastes like life and earth and every god you've ever heard of. When you look back toward the pyramid, its edges catch the last light and gleam as if on fire. You wonder how many lives it will take to finish it. You suspect the answer is all of them. Night descends fast once the sun is gone. The heat bleeds away, leaving a sharp chill. Fires dot the camp like small stars. A priest walks between them, burning incense and chanting to Ra and to Khufu's spirit. His voice is steady, comforting in its certainty. He promises that every stone placed here earns a worker a place in the afterlife. You close your eyes and try to believe him. You need to believe him. You lie back on your mat, looking up at the stars over Giza. They're the only cool things left in the world. Your hands throb. Your skin radiates heat. Your ears still ring with the chant. Tomorrow before dawn you'll rise again. The song will start again. The sun will climb again. And you will pull until your shadow disappears. Because here, under Ra's eternal eye, the sun never forgives. Dawn returns before you're ready for it. The first sound is not birds or prayer. It's the scrape of reeds against clay jars as someone drags water closer to the fire. Your shoulders feel like they belong to another body. Yesterday's dust still lives in your throat. You sit up on the papyrus mat, roll your wrists and watch the first light run like gold across the Nile. For one suspended breath, you pretend you are only here to watch the river. Then the overseer's call reaches the camp, thin and precise as a reed flute. To the quarry, move. Today you walk not toward the ramp, but upstream, along a path worn by thousands of feet. The quarry yawns out of the bedrock like a wound, scarred surfaces, ledges cut into squares, channels half-carved and brimming with shadow. Men are already at work, some wielding copper chisels that flash like fish in the morning light, others hammering dolerite, pounding stones against the rock until the world becomes a rhythm. Tap, thud, breathe. The sound carries, layered over the hum of voices and the hiss of sand sliding off edges. Your task is simple to explain and difficult to do. Free the next block. The foreman marks the intended rectangle with red pigment, straight lines on a pale face. Along these lines you and your team drive wooden wedges into drilled slots, pour water over the wood, and wait. Wood drinks. Wood swells. Someone whispers a blessing to Potter, the maker. The wedges groan. The stone answers, a slow crack spreading in a jagged smile. When the block sighs away from the cliff with a dull bloom of dust, the men around you grin as if a small god has nodded. Not every block yields so politely. Some cling to the earth like stubborn teeth. When copper edges grow dull, you stop to sharpen on a slab sprinkled with grit. When the dolerite plugs skid, you trade them out. Heavy spheres the size of a skull that drink the strength from your arms. The air smells of hot rock and sweat. Fingers turn white with limestone paste. Nobody speaks unless they must. Words cost breath, and breath is your only wealth here. Once freed, the block must be dressed. Its faces trued with steady, fussy mercy until they sit square as a prayer. You do it by ear as much as eye. The tone of copper on stone changes when the plane is right. Tick, tick, too high, too, closer. A flat, satisfying thock. Enough for now. The mason beside you runs a string against the surface and squints along it, sun glinting at the filament's edge. He nods once. The foreman makes a charcoal mark. Numbers are scratched onto broken pottery shards. Tallies of blocks, names of work gangs, who owes what to whom. The teams have names. Some are proud, friends of Khufu painted in red on sledges and baskets. Some are jokes sharp as flint, drunkards of the north. The names stitch men together into something that can pull 10 tons of limestone across wet sand without letting go. On good mornings the names are sung, call and response that keeps hands in time and minds from wandering into heat-sick places. On bad mornings only the ropes speak. You break to drink from a shared jar, water tasting of clay and the river's long memory. Someone passes a small bowl of beer, cloudy, faintly sweet, more bread than drink. It slides down easy, filling your belly with a soft hum that makes the sun feel a hair farther away. Food arrives in baskets, more barley loaves, onions, dried Nile fish that crumble under your teeth. You eat with hands coated in limestone dust, and it crunches between your molars like salt. When the block is ready, ropes are threaded and knotted. A sledge hugs the stone's belly. Men squat and count aloud. On 3, bodies lean back as one, and the block begins its slow, terrible journey to the ramp. The ground has already been wetted by boys with jars, a sheen of mud turning sand into a skin. The sledge skims with a gritty whisper. You fall into the rope's language. Pull, set, pull, set. Once your body learns the grammar, even silence speaks. Up the long slope, the ramp that unrolls like a tongue toward the pyramid's flank. Scholars in another age will argue over its shape, straight, zigzag, spiraling like a snail around the mountain of stone. You don't argue, you climb whatever is there today. The ramp is slick underfoot, scored with grooves from earlier loads. As the angle steepens, voices sharpen. A drummer's beat appears out of air. Dum, dum, steady as a pulse. The block shudders, gains a hand's breadth, pauses, then answers the drum again. You feel your ribs spiking with each heave, a cage rattled by rhythm. Midday does not arrive, it descends. The sun is a white raw, shadows evaporate. Men wrap cloth over their heads, smear oil on shoulders that already shine raw. The overseers are quieter now, their own faces leached by the light. They point and wave with sticks more than they speak. The silence that replaces shouting is not mercy, it is conservation. Even anger must be rationed here. You notice the little things that make this giant impossible thing work. Two men on either side of the sledge carry clay jars and pour at the critical moments when friction almost wins. One man walks backward ahead of the team, eyes on the roller under the runners, shoving it forward with a foot and a curse before the sledge eats it. Another keeps the rope off the edge of a stone that would cut it like a knife. None of these jobs are glamorous. All of them prevent disaster. At the top, a gang of setters waits. They lever the block sideways with poles that flex like living reeds, coaxing it onto its bed. Thin chips of stone shim 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 slide under the edge until the faces kiss the neighbors. A man with a plumb bob touches the cord to the wall and watches the lead tip hover. He smiles. The master surveyor steps forward with a sighting tool, a forked stick and a string, and peers toward a marker post with black and red stripes. Somewhere above, a priest lifts a simple instrument called a merket to read the north stars as they circle the pole you cannot see. Across years and nights, those tiny fires in the sky will keep this colossal thing true. You breathe out and feel the rope slide from your hands. The block is home. For a moment, the only sound is the pyramid itself, settling, a stone sigh as old as thinking. The sun owns this land. You feel it the moment you rise, long before it clears the horizon. Even the air tastes of heat. Dry, metallic, ancient. The camp stirs like a nest of insects. Workers tying cloth around their heads, splashing thin water over their faces, whispering quick prayers to any god willing to listen before the day begins. You do the same, though you can't tell if it's faith or habit. The overseer passes, counting heads. Nobody wants to be the one missing. By mid-morning the temperature climbs beyond thought. It isn't weather, it's a presence. You squint at the horizon and see the world distort, the dunes breathing, the pyramid shimmering as if made of glass. The copper tools grow so hot, they hiss when dropped on the sand. Even the flies seem slower, drunk on heat. You wrap your scarf tighter, knowing it does almost nothing. The men nearby work bare-chested, their backs lacquered with sweat and grit, skin the color of sun-baked clay. You learn small tricks for survival. Keep the cloth damp with spit if no water's left. Smear mud across your arms so the sun bites less. Walk in another man's shadow when you can. The work never stops, hauling, hammering, shouting through the glare. When someone collapses, others step over him until he moves again. There's no cruelty in it, only the arithmetic of labor. One slows, the rest fall behind. At noon, the overseers retreat to a shaded lean-to, while you and the others eat quickly, squatting behind sledges that throw a finger's width of shadow. Lunch is dried fish, coarse bread, and beer, thick as porridge. You drink it more for salt than pleasure. The moment of rest feels stolen, like shade itself is contraband. Someone hums a hymn about the river being a mother. Cool, forgiving, eternal. No one answers. Their mouths are busy saving moisture. The afternoon heat presses harder. Every surface radiates light. Even the ramp glows white. The stone under your palm feels alive, pulsing with warmth. You look at the pyramid rising tier by tier, a mountain that eats men and years alike. Some say the pharaoh will live forever because of it. Others joke that the workers already have, bits of themselves sealed inside every block. A fingernail here, a drop of blood there. Immortality, one flake at a time. Sometimes, when the overseer's back is turned, you glance toward the river. It gleams like a promise. So close you could walk there before sunset, so far you'd never return. That's the paradox of this place. The Nile gives life, but the pyramid takes it. You think about the peasants upriver who farm grain and drink from shaded wells, and wonder if they envy you, the builder of eternity, or pity you. Then the drum sounds again, and thought melts into motion. The rhythm of hauling becomes hypnotic. Rope burns feel like bracelets. The chanting rises and falls, matching heartbeats. You lose yourself in the pattern until time unravels. One moment you're under the ramp's slope, the next you're staring down from a ledge that didn't exist yesterday. The pyramid grows like a tide swallowing sky. It's beautiful, you think, and then ashamed for thinking it. Beauty costs too much here. Late in the day a sandstorm approaches. Nothing sudden, just a brown curtain walking across the horizon. The overseers shout for covers. You grab your headcloth and tie it tight, eyes squinted to slits. The wind arrives like a wall. Sand fills every crease of skin, every fold of linen, every breath. The pyramid vanishes behind a veil of dust. Men crouch beside the stones, heads bowed. The sound is like being inside a drum. For a moment you envy the blocks, deaf, still, eternal. When the storm passes, everything changes color. The sky turns copper. The workers look carved from the same dust they move. You wipe your face and taste grit and sweat. The foreman laughs without humor and calls the roll. One man is missing. No one saw him go. Maybe he ducked into the quarry. Maybe he lay down and let the desert keep him. The work resumes anyway. The pyramid doesn't stop for grief. As twilight finally falls, the air cools with shocking suddenness. You almost shiver. The first stars bloom over the western ridge, the same ones the priests use to set the temple's line. Someone strikes flint and lights a fire. The smoke smells of dung and acacia. You sit beside it and stretch your hands toward the warmth that now feels gentle instead of cruel. It's strange how the same element can both torture and comfort, depending on how close you stand. The camp comes alive again. Someone plays a reed flute. Another tells a story about a cat who outsmarted Anubis. Laughter drifts through the dusk like a river breeze. The overseer pretends not to hear he's laughing too. For the first time all day you feel human. Not a tool, not a number, but a voice among other voices under the same indifferent sky. You fall asleep still hearing the flute, still tasting sand in your teeth. In the distance the unfinished pyramid glows under moonlight, layer upon layer stacked against time. Tomorrow it will be taller, and you will be smaller. The sun will return to claim its price again, and you will pay it willingly, because in this world there is no choice but to build and endure. The morning drum calls before the light does. It's not cruel, it's steady, inevitable. You rise with it because everyone does. The sand is still cool beneath your feet, and the Nile fog lies low across the water, silver like spilled mercury. For a few breaths, the world is soft. Then the overseer's conch sounds, and softness ends. You join the line, shouldering ropes and baskets, walking toward the ramp. The pyramid glows faintly in half light, the promise of another unending day. You've begun to measure life in small comforts, the cool moment before sunrise, the first swallow of water, the brief shade at midday. Between those moments lies the system, the perfect machine that keeps thousands of hands moving. Every man is counted, every loaf weighed. Bread is both payment and permission. 2 loaves, 1 jar of beer, 1 onion, your daily wage for eternity's construction. Some men joke that when the pyramid is finished, Khufu will owe them a feast so grand it never ends. The priests smile but don't disagree. The rations come from long rows of storehouses by the river. The smell of yeast and wet grain hangs in the air like breath. You see women kneading dough in shallow basins, children carrying baskets of fish, slaves, free farmers, labor gangs, all the same here. The bread is coarse but filling. The beer is thick and slightly sour, cloudy like the river after rain. It dulls pain, softens the edges of heat. and for a while keeps rebellion asleep. Even the overseers drink it, though theirs comes in pottery painted with lotus flowers. Each work gang answers to a scribe. He carries a wooden tablet smeared with fresh black ink and a brush of reeds. He doesn't haul stone or pour water, but the entire world moves on his marks. A man's labor, a measure of grain, a death. Everything becomes line and symbol. The scribe's voice never rises. When he speaks, others listen. The overseers, loud and sunburned, depend on his quiet authority. You realize that ink can rule more absolutely than the whip. Still, the whip exists. More a sound than an act. You hear it crack sometimes when a rope slips or when men argue. But mostly, it's the idea of it that keeps order. A single lash through the air reminds everyone that the pharaoh's patience, like the desert, is infinite but not forgiving. The overseer's staff is tipped with bronze, polished smooth by habit. He rarely strikes. He doesn't have to. The fear of falling behind does the work for him. Mid-morning, priests arrive at the ramp. They come barefoot, robes white, heads shaved to gleam under the sun. They sprinkle water from bronze bowls and burn pellets of incense. The smoke drifts low and sweet, masking the smell of sweat and mud. They chant praises to Ponta, god of craftsmen, and to Khufu, who will rise through the stars. The workers lower their ropes and bow their heads. Some close their eyes. The chant's rhythm folds into the labor rhythm until you can't tell one from the other. Faith and work, identical motions under the same heat. You've begun to sense how belief works here. It's not comfort, it's structure. The pyramid isn't just stone, it's proof that the world makes sense, that there's an order bigger than hunger. You see it in the faces around you, men who no longer question why, only how, one block at a time, one breath at a time. And when the work becomes unbearable, they remind themselves that Khufu is divine and divinity requires weight. When the priests leave, they walk slowly down toward the river, their white robes turned amber by dust. Behind them, the overseers clap their hands, and the song resumes. You pull with the others, chanting words you don't fully understand. The melody keeps time, but the lyrics speak of eternity, of light reborn every dawn. It feels right. You look up at the pyramid's side and realize that from a distance the men hauling stone look like veins pulsing through the mountain's skin, each line feeding life into something larger. By noon the sun blazes white again. The sand stings your ankles. Water boys hurry along the ranks with goatskin bags. The scribe moves among the workers, marking attendance, counting ropes. His tablet gleams wet with ink. When he stops beside you, he nods, records a symbol, and moves on. That simple gesture feels like proof you exist. Without ink, you'd vanish as easily as dust on wind. Midday break. You sit in a circle near the ramp's base. Bread passed hand to hand. Beer shared from the same jar. The man beside you hums a hymn to Hathor, goddess of joy. It's almost a joke, but no one laughs. For a moment you imagine you're not building a tomb but a song, one that might survive when your bones don't. The air tastes faintly of yeast and smoke. Someone tells a story about Khufu's architect, Imhotep, who once drew a pyramid so perfect it frightened the gods. You listen as if it might be true. The afternoon stretches thin. The shadows lengthen across the ramp like lines of writing. Work slows but never stops. The overseer walks among you, staff resting against his shoulder. He says nothing. The whip at his side hangs idle, sunlight glinting along its bronze tip. Even he looks tired, eyes narrowed against glare. You realize you've stopped fearing him, not because he's kinder, but because the sun is harsher. It's the only master you truly obey. When dusk comes, the heat collapses. The workers gather in small clusters near the water. The priests return, carrying lamps. Their chants drift over the river, low, steady like heartbeat. You stand ankle deep in the shallows, washing sand from your arms, the Nile running cool around your skin. The setting sun turns the pyramid red for an instant, as if lit from within. You stare at it and feel both pride and dread. Pride because you helped shape it. Dread because you know it will outlast you. The priests promise eternity, but you understand it differently now. Eternity is not reward. It's the work itself, repeated forever, block by block, breath by breath. you wake to silence. No drum, no shouts. Only the wind moving through scaffolds of timber and rope. The air smells of dust and stone dust only. The river's scent feels far away. When the sound finally comes, it is deep and slow. A horn from the top of the pyramid announcing that the last course of stone will soon be set. You rise with the others. No one speaks. Every man knows what it means when the mountain nears its peak. The climb is longer now. The ramp twists up and up. Higher than any tree. Higher than any bird dares to circle. Below, the Nile glitters like a thin thread. The air grows thinner, cooler, carrying the smell of resin and pitch. Here at the summit, the stones are smaller, shaped for precision rather than weight. Gold leaf panels and fine granite blocks wait beneath linen wraps, shining like captured light when uncovered. You realize this will be the last sunrise you see from such a height. The builders move with ritual care now. The rope team hauls the polished block up the final ramp. Slow, deliberate, almost ceremonial. Priests stand ready with incense and lotus garlands. When the stone slides into place, its sound is not a thud but a sigh, the breath of the earth closing a long-held secret. A murmur passes through the crowd, half prayer, half relief. The pyramid shape is complete, a geometry of faith made real by flesh and dust. For days afterward, you help fill the inner passages with treasures and offerings. Gold bowls, painted jars, carved statues of servants and beasts. Each piece has its appointed place, each wrapped in linen and named aloud so the spirit will recognize it in the next world. You carry torches through cool chambers that smell of cedar and new paint. Hieroglyphs shimmer under flame, rows of gods, eyes wide and calm. The artists move quietly, touching up symbols so every line aligns with eternity. The deeper you go, the cooler it becomes, until sound itself feels heavy. The priests chant continuously now, voices echoing off the walls. They say these words will bind the pharaoh's soul to the stars. You wonder what binds yours. The flickering torchlight paints your shadow onto the carved walls beside gods and kings. And for a moment you seem part of their story, one more figure marching toward the afterlife. Outside, the ramp begins to vanish. Teams shovel sand and gravel down its slope, erasing the road that carried your labor skyward. Watching it disappear feels strange, like seeing the years of your life dissolve grain by grain. The overseer orders the timber scaffolds taken apart, beams stacked and floated back to the river. Soon only the gleaming face of the pyramid remains, smooth and sharp against the sun. The path upward is gone, and with it, your proof that you ever stood so high. The priests declare the pyramid sealed on a morning of perfect blue. You help roll the granite plug into the entrance, hearing it scrape and settle like thunder underground. Dust swirls, then stills. The doors close with a final hollow note. The echoes fade, and the workers stand motionless. For the first time, no one tells you what to do. The whip is silent. The drum is silent. The god of labor has no more prayers to answer. In the days that follow, the camp empties. Some men return to farms, others head south to new quarries. You remain a little longer, repairing tools, packing clay jars, reluctant to leave the shape that has defined you. At sunset you sit by the river and watch the pyramid catch the dying light. Its white casing blazes orange, then rose, then fades to grey. The reflection shivers across the water, like a second pyramid built of fire. You think of all the names shouted across the years, the gang names painted in red, the overseer's commands, the priest's blessings. Most will fade, the scribe's tablets will crumble, but the stone will remain, carrying the echo of human breath inside it. Somewhere deep within, sealed in airless dark, a single chamber holds a king's dream and the fingerprints of those who gave it shape. You realize you have built not just a tomb but a monument to every heartbeat that kept working under the sun. Night comes. The stars rise exactly where the priests said they would, circling the northern sky like guardians. You lie on your back near the riverbank and trace the lines between them. The Great Pyramid points straight toward that cosmic center, its edges true as law. You understand now why they called it the Ladder of Heaven. For a moment you imagine climbing it, each block a memory, each breath a rung, until you vanish into the cool, endless dark. The wind shifts from south, carrying the scent of rain far upriver. Somewhere the flood season begins again, Fields drink, villages wake, children are born, life continues, while the pyramid keeps its silence. You smile faintly at the thought. The pharaoh sought eternity, but so did you in your own way. Every handful of sand you moved was a promise that something you touched might last. As you close your eyes, the breeze off the Nile cools your skin. The moon rests on the pyramid's peak, like a coin on an altar. For the first time in a long time, you feel neither servant nor master, neither believer nor doubter, just a living shadow passing across stone. You have built a tomb, yes, but in its reflection lies the shape of your own survival. When the next dawn arrives, the desert will swallow your footprints, yet the pyramid will still catch the light. That is its purpose. And perhaps quietly, that was yours too.